And yeah, go ahead, Joyce, and I'll let them in. Good evening, everyone.
Hi, everyone. I'm not Lynn, but I'm substituting tonight again. So grateful that Mark lets me do this.
All right, ready for the mission statement?
Okay. Our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting parents whose children have passed. Through support and resources offered, we aspire to help individuals become shining light parents, meaning a shift from a state of emotional heaviness to one of hopefulness and greater peace of mind. Helping Parents Heal goes a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and afterlife evidence in a non dogmatic way. Helping Parents Heal affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non religious background, and encourage open dialogue. Attendance at this meeting is voluntary. We hope that participants will learn from and share with each other. Discussions here are confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Zoom meetings run by the leadership are not confidential. These meetings typically feature guest presenters and are posted on YouTube so that affiliate members worldwide can watch and benefit. Neither type of Helping Parents Heal meeting is designed to replace traditional therapy. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers, allowing parents to learn about many ways to heal. This includes presenters covering progressive topics such as afterlife evidence and connecting with children who have passed. The views expressed by our guest speakers may or may not reflect the opinions of Helping Parents Heal leaders and members, so we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. What a great way to spend Labor Day, at least in the States. We have a wonderful session for you this evening. We'll actually do a short version of it. But first of all, and Joyce, you've got the range for letting people in now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. If you can make your video, enable it so I can see you. It's always great to see your shining face, to see how you're reacting, making sure no one dozes off. Not that that's ever happened to me. I'm not saying that. I'm sorry about your child's passing and all the suffering that can go with that, but I'm glad you found the information, resources, and support in Helping Parents Heal, because the overriding goal of this is to help you journey from primarily identifying yourself as a bereaved parent to realizing that you are a shining light parent right now, whether you feel that way or not. And there are two main reasons you are. I mean, you're a shining light person, including a parent. First of all, you're an eternal being of light, energy, spirit, consciousness, awareness, wherever you want to call it, and that's been scientifically proven now. And secondly, so are your children. But they're more aware of it because they live in, you understand, a less obstructed view of reality. So those of you who have heard me talk before have heard this before, but it's very important to remember. We on Earth, a lot of people think the brain knows everything, and some people, called materialists, believe that the only thing that is really real is what the five senses can perceive. Well, it turns out that actually the brain can only perceive much less than 1% of reality. And that's a scientific fact. It's just that a lot of academics and professor scientists aren't aware of the literature showing that consciousness is primary. So your child not having a human brain, although everything about your child continues except that particular earthly body, but your child can manifest a different body that looks just like that, especially when interacting with you. But your child no longer suffers from what Albert Einstein called the optical delusion, that we're separate that we can die, that we're separate from each other and source. And so that's how you can be a shining light parent and person, for those important reasons. And the technique I'm going to share this evening, the acronym for it is A.R.T, and that stands for appreciate, realize, and transform. This is a really powerful way to help you more deeply know and show that you're a shining light, everything. Well, it kind of sounds like the earth, wind, and fire song, did it? And if you're not muted, please mute yourself. I had a radio show in the year 2000 called Solutions, and I started off with Earth, Wind, and Fire. You're a shining star, no matter who you are. So you can watch some of those shows, by the way. If you go to soulproof.com/radio shows, I interviewed some people who have passed on now, like Wayne Dyer, Michael Newton, who founded Life Between Lives work. So some of the greatest names in consciousness studies. Really proud of those. Those were very cool. So background information for these articles number 2, excuse me, when your child changes worlds. Number 19, the great news about the nature of reality. And number 41, the A.R.T technique. So again, those are foundational articles for understanding what we're doing this evening. Number 2, 19, and 41. So as you well know, it's common after the bodily death of a child. You notice I didn't say your child died. Your child didn't die. No one really dies. But yes, the earthly form did, the earth suit. And so it's common to have feelings of pain, sadness, anger, guilt, loneliness, fear, etc. Very, very common. Those are considered lower energy emotions. And that's not being critical or judgmental. That's just a measurement of how powerful they are, how much force is behind those emotions. People like David Hawkins, PhD, MD, who wrote the book Force versus Power, describes these. So if you Google map of consciousness, Dr. Hawkins, you'll see it's just a beautiful list, and I recommend that you print it out and post it where you'll see it so you can remember even better. In fact, let me just see if I can find that really quickly. It's in my photos because I refer to it so often, and because that's a lot of what we're doing this evening, focusing on higher energy emotions, energies, and ways of being, because you understand when you feel better, you do better, you choose better. Yeah, here it is. So I'm going to take just a moment and do this. So can you see this map of consciousness? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So let me go full screen for a moment. If I can, I have so many things going on here. We'll just go with this. So if you notice down in the red, like if you're feeling shame, guilt, grief, deep grief, everybody has some grief, but deep, what some would call excessive grief, fear, anger, those are the lower energy emotions. And you can see how they test from 20 to 150. And when you feel like that, then you think God. Here's your God view up here on the upper left. Your God view is that God despises humanity. God's vengeful. God is punishing you. God condemns you, which some lower energy denominations teach. But when you're focused more on the higher scale of emotions, you're experiencing peace, joy, love, acceptance. And look how those rate 500, 600. Enlightenment, realizing, and that's what the great news is about. And so there's so much scientific and clinical proof for this as well, that you are one with the one, you're part of Source, you don't really die. You'll see your child again after you pass on and can now. And I'm getting ahead of my notes, but you two may actually be together right now in another slice of life. I'll say more about that in a moment. So this is what you want to focus on. So again, if you Google this, print it out. I have mine where I see it. I refer to it almost every day when I work with people. And then when you find yourself feeling angry, those darn doctors, if it weren't for them, my child would still be alive. Okay, what's that? Anger, grief, you know, um, or I should have done more. I should have been there, guilt. So after a while, instead of feeling these emotions, you can just come up with the word. Well, here you go again. You're stuck in fear. What if I don't see him again? What if there's really not an afterlife? So these make you feel like you're in hell. And when you feel these things, even a little more, that's when your life gets lighter, feels more heavenly. So you get the idea on that. Ah, so depending on how long it's been since your child graduated from Earth School and some other factors, you may feel those lower energy emotions, some or a lot. So whatever you're feeling is fine. You start with where you are. However, we want you to know that you can choose to upgrade. And one of the biggest things I learned from the parents, the 130 that Elizabeth Boyson and I interviewed, who ended up in the book. Everyone mute themselves, please. The parents we interviewed, and they're all caring listeners and or group leaders, they said, I realized I can feel sad and still feel resolve to connecting with my child. I can feel regret, like I wish that had happened, and still feel joyful for the reasons I just mentioned. You'll see them again. They're alive and well. They're in paradise right now. So it doesn't have to be either or. But focusing on the higher energy emotions, peace, joy, love, gratitude, then heals you in body, mind, and spirit. And after a while, that becomes your set point. So again, the ART stands for appreciate. So this is appreciating your wonderful times together, your rich memories you have, and all that went with it. And so some parents will say, I can't believe my child passed at a young age. And I get it. That's horrible from a limited human perspective. That just seems horrible, unfair, cruel, chaotic. However, what these caring listening parents said was, or the shining light parents said, we are so grateful for having him for 13 years, having her for 18 years. That you feel and hear the difference, obviously. The R is realize. Again, you'll see each other again, definitely when you pass on, we know that. You can experience them now using things like my afterlife contact technique, described in article number 9, and all my audio programs are free at soulproof.com/shop. And as I mentioned, you may be together right now. When I say you, I mean your higher self, your real self, the totality of your energy. So you on Earth right now watching this is just part of who you are. On average, 25–40% of your energy is you manifesting on an earthly experience. The rest can be in another space-time dimension, and part may never have left home in the first place. So that's how you and your child may actually be together right now, and you're having this earthly experience is very much like a virtual reality experience. It's like watching a TV show. It's a blink of an eye in the span of eternity. So to learn more about that, see article number 75 entitled Multilocation/Parallel Realities 75. Also, you can realize that your children are in a realm characterized by all these wonderful emotions. That's why they call it heaven. Hello. So you can be happy about that and appreciate that. And then the T, you can transform every aspect of your life for the better, not despite your child passing, but because of your child passing. This has served as a wake up, a shake up for so many parents. And another big lesson for these shining light parents, they said, I became committed very early on that I was going to find the silver linings. One day, Jeff Holohan, he had a tattoo. You know, I bought the ticket, I'm going to take the ride. I'm going to enjoy the ride. And so, yeah, you went through all that suffering. You might as well get the benefits of it, which are finding the silver linings, benefiting from them, and then sharing them with others. Another thing is, parents said, I'm going to honor my child's life. I'm going to make him or her proud of me. I'm going to create more meaning to their life by growing, learning, serving others, and shining more brightly. So that's what all this is about. So I want to leave time to actually have a partial session here. So I will just say the full version is at shop art technique. We'll do a standard induction process with contracting and relaxing major muscle groups. Then I'll ask you to use all of your senses to see, hear, feel, and know yourself doing certain things. Walking down a staircase, walking along a path, crossing a bridge. These are all just ways to quiet your brain, kind of put your brain on the shelf so that your real self, the other 99.999% of your consciousness, comes to the fore and senses your child and gets in touch with how you can feel, how you naturally feel when you understand more about how life is set up. Then insights and lessons may come in, they come in different ways for different people. Some people may get fragments of them, and then the rest comes in like during a dream tonight, or spontaneously pops up tomorrow or the day after. So it's good to keep some notes, a journal for about a week after this to get the full impact from it. Some people will have a rapid download, like I'll say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and like boom, it comes in, and then they've got it. Or other people will see things unfolding in a sequential order, like a movie. When I ask you to, for example, appreciate, what do you appreciate about your child's life, even though he or she's passed, you can see yourself with your child, and you can see yourself directly involved, like you're there, really there again, or you can watch it like you're watching a movie. In all of these, throughout the technique, the best thing is to consider what floats up, what pops in. In other words, we want to leave the brain out. So when I say, all right, what can you realize better to heal and transform? Well, I don't want the brain to say, let's see, what can I realize? Let me analyze this. That's your brain. We want to leave it out. Just boom, what floats up, what pops in. That's what you want to focus on. After each one of the questions, I'll leave a minute of silence, and then I'll say, let's go a little deeper on that one. Appreciate, realize, or transform. And then we'll move on to the next one. So that's the introduction. And at this point, so we'll be 25 minutes, maybe 30 tops. So if you feel like you have to go to the bathroom, maybe a good time to run out and do that. If you're emotional, you may want to have Kleenex. You may want to take a drink of water to wet your whistle. Wet your whistle? When's the last time I said that? And some chapstick for your lips, because you're going to be breathing open mouth, eyes closed, breathing slowly and deeply, because if you keep your mouth shut, that requires muscular tension. So if you need to run out and do those things, please do now. And while we're waiting for anyone who may have to come back, any questions or concerns before we start the technique? Just questions about this, not questions about anything else, please. You can raise your hand literally or raise your digital hand. All right, so it's better to sit up rather than lie down. It's late in the evening for some people, and so if you're lying down, you might fall asleep. Now it's okay to block your video, and we'll make sure everyone's audio is blocked so no one's going to see you, so that way you don't have to feel self-conscious about it, and you can go more deeply. Throughout this, it's important to breathe slowly and deeply, diaphragmatically, which means when you breathe in, let your belly bulge out some, let your diaphragm drop and your lungs inflate fully. When you exhale, breathe your abdominal muscles in, diaphragm up. So that's the best way to breathe. That's what opera singers and so on use. So everything else will be self-explanatory as we go. Some people like to just say a little word or intention, a little word of prayer or intention before they start. Maybe they're concerned about nefarious forces or something kind of butting in when you're in this deeply relaxed state. But I'll just set the intention. There's no need to be concerned of that because we're surrounding ourselves with love and light. And every medium I know and every law I know says that love and light are the most powerful forces. So what I call imbalanced souls, who aren't yet aligned with the light, they can't touch you. They can't affect you when you align with good and God, peace, joy, love, and light. All right, with that, let's block your audios and we'll begin. So sitting up straight, hands on your thighs, eyes closed, breathing slowly and deeply. Let's begin by alternately contracting and relaxing major muscle groups, starting with the feet and legs. Take a deep breath in and then tense those muscles in your feet and legs. Hold the tension. Notice how uncomfortable that feels, and then as you exhale, how good it feels to relax and let them go heavy. Now the muscles of the abdomen and low back. Take a deep breath in and tense your stomach muscles and low back as if someone's going to punch you in the stomach. Hold it, and exhale and relax. Now your upper trap shoulder muscles. Take a deep breath in and raise your shoulders up to your ears. Hold that tension. Notice how uncomfortable, unnatural that feels. And then as you let them drop, already feeling a wave of peaceful relaxation. Next, the muscles of the hands and arms. Take a deep breath in and make a fist with each hand. Tense your fist. Hold that tension. Hold it, and let them drop and breathe. And now the muscles of the face. Take a deep breath in and clench your jaw together and squeeze your eyes together and scrunch up your forehead muscles. Hold the tension, hold it, and relax and let it go. Good. Now continuing to focus on my voice, breathing slowly and deeply, knowing that you are shielded, watched over by God and the light. Picture, imagine, or visualize as clearly as you can using all of your senses in front of a set of stairs. And as I count from 10 to 1, see, hear, feel, know yourself going down the stairs. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. sensing before you an ornately decorated door, and you know this door represents an even deeper state of consciousness when you walk through. With my count from 3 to 1, see yourself opening the door easily and stepping through. 3, 2, 1. On the other side now, finding yourself on a path, feeling so good, so peaceful, with anticipation about this new tool, the A.R.T technique, that will help you so much and those around you. Take a moment and just feel everything going around you, the sun shining on your skin, the rustling of wind, birds singing, smell of flowers, feeling so good, so peaceful as you walk along. And as you do this, you actually hear, before you see, a babbling brook, a shallow stream. And as you get closer to the stream, you notice a bridge that stretches from your side to the other side of the stream, just a small bridge. With my count from 10 to 1, sense yourself stepping over it safely and securely. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. On the other side of the stream now, and seeing a comfortable bench under a beautiful copse of trees. A bench just waiting for you, and see yourself having a seat and being surrounded by your spiritual support team, your angels, guides, master teachers, or whatever your names are for them, and always and everywhere the light. With all your being, sense them sending you love, unconditional love, understanding, and giving you a healing shower to charge you up, giving you some more energy, washing away fear, sadness, and setting the stage for a wonderful technique. Just take a moment and enjoy that. Good, you're doing great. Now it's time to let pop up, float in insights, understandings about how you can more deeply appreciate, realize, and transform. So after I count from 5 to 1, first gain more clarity during the 2 minutes of silence, how you can more deeply appreciate the time you had with your child and how you can collect the silver linings and share them with others. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. It's said that gratitude is one of the highest emotions that helps us understand the mind of Creator. So take another moment now and become more aware. What are some blessings, lessons, eternal memories that you can appreciate? Just a few more moments about how you can deepen your appreciation for the time you have with this beautiful child and the time you'll have again. Good. Now, after my count from 5 to 1, become more aware of how you can realize without a doubt that you'll be with them again someday. And you can now in meaningful ways. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Now let's go more deeply. How else can you realize that the relationship with your child is an eternal one? Good. Next, consider how you can transform your life for the better now. Again, not despite your child passing, but because of it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now consider how else can you transform your life for the better? How can you find silver linings, benefit from them, and share them with others? Good. And finally, take 2 more minutes to gain additional clarity about how you can better appreciate, realize, and transform. Just let those insights and strategies pop up into your awareness. And now it's time to begin to come back to the waking state, feeling relaxed, peaceful, with greater awareness that you choose how you face adversity, realizing that you deserve to feel happy and peaceful, and that you now have another powerful tool to do that, with a deeper knowing that you and your child are eternal and beloved soulmates who will have other adventures. I'm going to count forward from 1 to 5. With each count, let yourself gently and gradually bring your awareness back into your body and the room. 1, 2, 3. Become more aware of the chair on which you're sitting and clothing on your body. 4, starting to wiggle your toes and fingers a bit. And 5, when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. All right, so as you get with the program here, keep in mind that what we did tonight was a mini version. So if you didn't have anything, especially this is your first time through, don't worry about it. That was about a third of the usual induction process and about a third of the time during the session. So since we only have an hour, my goal in this is to introduce it, give you a taste for it, walk you through it, and encourage you then to use the full technique, again, free under shop, soulproof.com/shop. So with that in mind, I am open. We have about 15 minutes to any questions and anyone who would like to share what they did experience. Yes, Liza.
Hi. My son Lucas's birthday is 2 weeks from yesterday. Will be 2 weeks from yesterday, so on the 14th. Um, and I felt him say to me that to remind me that with his birthday approaching and Christmas and Thanksgiving and the holidays approaching, to remember that he will not be gone and we will be celebrating with him, and not to worry about how we celebrate, even if it looks a little different again this year, that he'll still be with us, and to not, and even if I'm a little sad, he'll be there with me, but to celebrate with him, not without him, and to remember that, and that we can still make new memories together
Beautiful.
regardless. So,
Beautiful. So that's one of the ways you can deepen your appreciation and realization.
thank you.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. By the way, too, I just had a counseling case last week. The woman, um, she's 39 now. Her brother passed. Uh, she and her brother were 2 years apart. They were really, really close, and he passed when she was 15. And so her whole life, she was exposed to a lot of abuse. Um, she was a atheist. She didn't believe in an afterlife. She didn't think there was any sense, meaning to life, etc. But she said about 2 months ago, all of a sudden she just started opening to, oh, maybe there really is a loving and intelligent creator. Maybe there is an afterlife. Maybe there is a rhyme and a reason to life. And so it was this like a switch got turned on. And so she started reading and searching, and I popped up. So she wanted to ask me a bunch of questions. Well, so I said, that's so interesting you would have that. Do you have any idea what started it and what triggered it? And she said no. And then later on, she's talking about her brother. And I said, boy, I feel like your brother is helping you right now. And she said, yeah, we were really close. She said, his birthday was 2 months ago. And then she said, oh my God, I just realized all that change that happened, that was right at his birthday. And so that reminded me of Liza, what did you share, that they're still there, they're rooting you on, they're cheering you on, they're helping you. Just a matter of realizing it, soaking it up, focusing on the positive. Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Who else has a question they'd like to ask or something they'd like to share about their experience? Lisa, looks like you were first.
So it's so hard for me to meditate, but I was at the beginning. My dogs interfere a lot. So I did see the door. What I saw when you said decorated, I saw, because I used to decorate a lot for Christmas. So I saw the decoration on the door. Then when I opened it, I seen my son. But then my dog started whining. So I was trying to stay with it, but I kept losing like the images. And then the other thing I saw, my first house when my son was younger, when you mentioned something about crossing the bridge, well, the stream, we had down the street a little stream and then the bridge. And then my dog whined again. So I just like lost it.
Yeah.
So like when things like that happen, am I supposed to start from the beginning or?
Well, first of all, in the future, when you use this at home, and this is described in the article about the art technique, article number 41, and it's also in the introductory track when you download the audio program. But you want to control your environment more. So you don't want any pets in the room with you. If possible, have somebody else watch the pet so you're not interrupted. So there are a number of things you can do and not do to create a optimal setting so you can go deep. Because anything like that will happen, your brain, oh, there's the dog again, and your brain's back in the faking you out about how life is set up. So thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you.
All right. Ingrid, you're up next.
Hi, thanks. Mine is like a kind of a question or an observation that I notice. Like you always hear, oh, you have to raise your vibration and be like in joy in order to connect with your, child on the other side. But for me, I find that when I'm really sad and struggling is when she comes to me. Like I'll get her in a dream that night, or I'll have like where we're just kind of hanging out, or she's has a specific thing she wants to talk to me about, or I'll feel her or something like that. And so I've had this struggle over the past couple years since she's passed of like I want to stay connected to her, but when I get kind of just when I sort of start to feel normal again or whatever, kind of then I lose connection with her. And I don't want to like dwell in grief, but it seems like that connects me. And I'm not sure if distraction versus being quiet is maybe the issue there or what. So
yeah, here's my sense. Is your brain fairly active when you're
yeah, I have cultivated a pretty good meditation practice since she died, but I am a pretty active brain, yes.
Yeah, so my sense is that when you feel sad, your brain gets a little quieter.
Yep.
It's not like she's coming through more because you're sad. She's trying to come through all the time. It's just a matter of when do you receive it, pick it up. So I think if continue your meditative practice. Have you used the holistic breathing technique to really release, cathartic that sadness?
No,
Okay, so this is described in article number 70. Again, it's called Holistic Breathing. It's free under shop audio programs, and use that as directed. And that will allow you to release a lot of that deep sadness. You'll cry your eyes out. You'll also, pound the mattress and get anger out. So that way you get more clear. So peaceful, joyful, calm becomes more your normative state. And then you should pick her up more often. Now, but are you saying that, yeah, so yeah, you should pick her up more often. I mean, unless she's really busy. And the other thing is, sometimes souls will set it up so that they don't get contact from their child or their loved one passed because you have lessons to learn. You may need to learn to be more independent. So I would just say, if all things considered, you're supposed to get visits, I think what we just discussed will help you do that more, not just when you're sad.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah. And if you have any, and for you and for everyone, if you have any follow-up questions, email me, mark@soulproof.com. It literally only takes me 5 minutes to respond. I'll say, read this article, use this audio program, and I'm glad to do it because each one of you is a shining light, like we talked about in the beginning, and we never know which person will be the tipping point for world peace. So I'm glad to take just a little time, so please don't hesitate. All right, iPhone, you're up next. What an interesting name you have.
Oh, I forgot to put my name, Monica. Mark, I'm looking on I know you said it, but I didn't have a pen. What is the name of the meditation we did tonight?
It's called Appreciate. It's called A.R.T technique. So it's appreciate, realize, and transform. And it's described in article number 41.
Awesome, thanks.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Enjoyed every minute.
All right. So anyone else? Any other questions or comments?
That was a good one tonight.
Excellent, thanks.
Thank you. My pleasure. Well, what a treat to have all of you here on Labor Day. Elizabeth and I considered whether even to have the class. I was like, people want to show up? And she said, well, maybe having the day off, more people will. And so wonderful group. Put this to use. This is a big one. And as I said, we're here. We've got the caring listeners. We've got the group. HPH has so many resources. It's just amazing. So don't suffer in silence. Reach out. Tell us what you need, and we'll make it happen. So God bless. Let it shine. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you, Mark. Thank you so much.
You. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a sacred honor.
Thank you, Mark.
You're very welcome. Hello, Cheryl.
Thanks, Mark.
What do you have to say for yourself, girl?
You're muted. Or you're not muted, but we can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Cheryl.
That's my latest.
There we go. We just heard, that's my latest. So speak more clearly and closer to your mic, please.
I just got on my phone. It was about a week ago, and I was talking to my friend out by the pool, and we were talking about if Amy was still here. That's my daughter. She passed 20 years ago at 18. And she my friend's going, yeah, if Amy was here, you'd be out shopping and going to lunch and doing all this stuff. And like you did before, we were just kind of talking happy, like. The
Okay.
next day, I got on my phone and it said, Amy, want to go to lunch? And we called the number and there was no such number.
Joyce, can you interpret for me? I'm having a half hard of
I
hearing.
only I only
But-
heard like every
Me?
other word.
I tell you what, Cheryl, just
I-
email me, okay?
I have these out. I don't understand. Hold on. I take them out, but every time I have them in,
Hey, Cheryl, email me whatever you're asking, and I'll answer that way because your audio is not coming through.
it's not coming through. Okay, I'm gonna not use
Not
this.
very well. All right.
No.
It must be these things, because every time I put these in, people can't hear me. So,
All right. We'll go that way.
okay,
Take care, dear ones.
thank you. Thank
Bye
you.
now.
Bye.